Hello, let's start with some mindset tips for how to write a great essay. Now, the first thing I want you to keep in mind is an etymological thing. Etymology means the origin of words and where words come from. Always keep in mind, and this will defeat a lot of writer's block, it will stop it preemptively. Always keep in mind that essay comes from the French word, which means to attempt or to try. So a lot of people give themselves a block and they get worried or they procrastinate or they don't think that they can write a great essay. So they start getting stilted and they kind of sabotage themselves. And that's because there's erroneous belief that an essay has to be fully formed and perfect straight from the start, right from the ink coming out of your pen, right from the first thing you tap on the board. No, this is incorrect. An essay is all about attempting or trying a few ideas on for size. You have something that you want to know about, a problem that you want to solve, a question that you have an answer to, maybe it's several questions, or maybe there's a subject you want to explore. Basically, essays come in a few different flavors. They're either exploratory or they're kind of answering a question. They're trying to balance different viewpoints on a subject, or they're trying to give a definitive answer. And so the mindset you want to go in is that you're going into play and to explore with a curious mind to find things out. It doesn't matter if it's correct, it doesn't matter if it's silly. This is the thing. You need to, it's kind of like a Jedi mind trick. It's kind of like a reverse psychology almost. By not caring about being a bit sloppy or having ideas that are a bit perhaps immature, you are giving yourself permission to go deep enough to take the filter off, the sensor filter off, to go deep enough to get something that is actually really, really good. Now, when you're trying to do an essay, there's two parts. Well, there's three really if you count research. So we'll do research is number one, writing and anything that entails is number two, and editing is number three. I'm putting outlining and writing down ideas in the writing process. But what I really want you to take away is that the writing and editing process, they are both very distinct entities. They should not be merged. Now, a lot of people procrastinate and a lot of people write slowly and a lot of people have a torturous, awful time writing essays or writing anything because they try to edit at the same time that they're creating and composing. And these two, it's like gaining muscle and losing fat at the same time. That actually can be done, but only when you're super, super advanced. And then it's actually better to concentrate on one or the other. So you can't add and subtract at the same time. Not really, not effectively. Most people can't. It's more effective to focus tunnel vision on one thing and then move on to the other. First, writing, production. You're in the factory, your production line, assembly. You're getting creative. You're putting ideas down. You don't care how silly they sound. You don't care what they sound like. You don't care if it's pretty or not. You don't care if you've even got people's names right. Then the editing part is where you clean up the mess. You throw everything down, explode everywhere. You give yourself license to be as creative as possible, and you don't give yourself much of a word count. Now, if your essay is 2,000 words, your first draft will be maybe even twice that amount, at least 500 to 1,000 more. Editing is about culling, it's about shaping and about crafting. You can only edit once you've got something down to play with. So people try to edit as they go along. You don't have much to play with. So keep that in mind. And we're going to talk more in depth about these principles. We're going to show them in action, but I want to just outline them in this video first so that when we get hands-on and we see essay writing in the process of essay writing, you know what I'm talking about and you can see in the concrete examples and you recall back and go, oh yeah, Ben said that in the mindset module. Another thing you want to think about, and this comes with crafting a thesis statement. What's a thesis statement? Typically, it's the first line of your essay. Maybe it's the first two lines, but you need to get into the mindset of being able to distill that which you want to explore in your essay into a very short, concise one-liner. Okay, this is like your elevator pitch. It's the elevator pitch, if you don't know it, it's kind of a concept used in Hollywood. It's used in the publishing industry. The idea is that you get into this elevator and lo and behold, the Mr. Big Wig or Mrs. Big Cheese, whoever's running the film company that you want to pitch to, is standing there with their coffee. Or maybe you're a writer and you go to HarperCollins and the editor's standing there in the elevator and you just know this is one of the right people I need to get my work in front of. Now you press the button, boop, you start going up or down, whatever direction you're going, and you see the numbers light up. Boom, 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 10th floor, 9th floor, 8th floor. You haven't got that long. Even for a tall building, you're in an elevator for what, 30 seconds? An elevator pitch is where you have to craft something that you could say very, very quickly, snappy and easy to remember. This is the art of the thesis statement. This is the art of getting a good introduction, and everything kind of hangs on it. Again, this is just a bird's eye view of this idea. We're going to go in depth. There's going to be a whole module on crafting a perfect thesis and trying to find something and conceptualize it and compress it. But here's something I want you to remember. When you're coming up with your idea, and this is ideally that an essay is only going to explore one thing at a time, okay? If you do too many things, then you lose clarity of focus, you get a bit wishy-washy, you don't give everything the attention it deserves. You want one thing. What you do to find your thesis statement is think of the most mundane, boring fact about your subject that you know is absolutely true, that nobody cares about. It's just fact, boring. And then you think about the most wacky, off-the-wall, crazy idea that could never be conceptualized, could never be compellingly discussed, because people think you're an absolute nutter. What you want to do with your thesis statement is to come and meet in the middle between two polar opposites, okay? That will give you a lot of food for thought. It will give you a lot to explore. It will give you a lot to argue about and argue against. Next, I want to give you some analogies that I think will help you. You must think of yourself as almost like a boxer, but you're also going to think of yourself as a ringmaster, someone who puts boxers in the ring, or somebody who is working in a circus and is directing all the different acts. And in addition, you want to think of yourself as a ballet dancer. There are a couple more professions you might want to think of yourself as, like a scientist or a debater. But what I mean when I talk about a ringmaster is this is what you do with your secondary text and your primary text. When you're bringing in critics in order to back up your argument, or bringing in critics to try to refute your argument, and then you're going to refute it to make it stronger. Either way, when you bring critics into your essay, you are pitching them against each other. You are the ringmaster, putting two fighters in the ring. You get one critic, says one thing, get another critic that says another thing. Now maybe it's ballet, and they work together and they bounce off of each other, although I don't think ballet dancers bounce very much, at least not off each other. I'm thinking more sumo now. But what I'm saying is you get these two people in the ring and you say, let there be blood. And you let them fight or dance together. But you're doing something, you're the director, you're doing a very important job here, and you want to pick the best ones, you want to pick the choicest ones, the ones that will fight the most, or will dance the most beautifully. Again, we're going to talk about this in way more depth when it comes to the criticism module and how to introduce critics and secondary reading, but that's another good mindset just to keep in your mind just for now before we go further. Now, another thing I want you to keep in mind is this idea that you don't know what you think about something until you conceptualize it in writing. Speaking works as well. But what I want to say is a lot of people put off writing their essays, or they don't enjoy the process because they think it's kind of pointless. Why am I writing this stupid essay? I have to do it just to get a grade. You don't. You're doing it to find out what you really think about something, and you'll surprise yourself. Writing an essay is a process of self-discovery where you really plumb the depths of your psychology and you really put your intellect to its limits as much as you can. And not only will you find out what you think about different themes, but you'll find out what you think about really important things. And here's the thing, if you really can't get excited about your essay, you haven't picked a good enough subject. If you aren't excited or you're procrastinating, it might mean that your thesis statement just simply isn't something that resonates with you. You don't think it's super important. And so the best thing you can do is to figure out what is important to you, what's meaningful to you, what has resonance for you, what hits your heartstrings, moves your soul, sways you as a human being. What is it about, I don't know, what are the huge themes about humanity, the human condition, crisis, searching for meaning, money, love, different layers of love, art, what does art mean, history, the importance of understanding history and then examining it so it doesn't happen again, or so it does happen again. You really need to search for that which moves you specifically and personally, and then you'll know that you've hit on something and you've found something if you actually can't wait to start writing. You can't wait to dive into the research, you can't wait to start getting notes down, you feel compelled. That's what you want to go after. Again, I said this a couple of times during this video, but we're going to talk about this more in depth in the specific modules on research and crafting a thesis statement. Now, another thing that I want you to keep in mind as a mindset tip is when you're writing, again, if you're feeling bored or you don't want to do it, not only is it about finding out what you think about great important ideas, but it's all about sharpening your persuasion skills. It's all about learning to debate effectively, to think effectively, to persuade effectively. If you can write a compelling essay about something important, then you can sell yourself in all manners of your lifetime. You can sell yourself at a job interview and you can get a job that you really desire. If you can't persuade and you can't influence and you can't tell compelling stories and make, profound arguments, then you'll always be left not getting the job that you want, and you'll always be left unsatisfied and longing and thinking what could have been. Or in romance, you can get the perfect partner for you. You can get someone who will complement your life and will be a complete positive influence upon your life. But you have to be able to sell yourself effectively, unfortunately. That's just the way of the world. And just selling your ideas generally is a good thing as well. This is the key to making money. It's the key to friendships. It's the key to romance. It's the key to artistic satisfaction. It's just being able to sell your ideas to yourself and then to other people. So don't think that writing an essay is unimportant. It's one of the most important things you can do. And another caveat, I'm going to keep this little mindset lesson quite short because then we can get in depth straight away, because I think you might be eager to do so. I certainly am. Something I want you to keep in mind is the idea of boredom. Now, I've said a few things that will actually try to ameliorate or lessen boredom or make sure that boredom doesn't happen or you're not bored, but it doesn't matter what you do or how important you think your work is. Sometimes you just be bored. Sometimes you're having a bad day, you're having an off day. Sometimes you get a bit of brain fog. Again, in the diet and supplement section, we'll talk about different ways you can counter that so that you don't really get brain fog and you're always feeling kind of on. And there's lots of lifestyle things and factors that play into that as well. But sometimes you will just be bored. And what I would say is boredom leads to insight. And we'll have a whole module on boredom and the art of boredom almost. But today, people have lost the ability, the skill to be bored productively. They've always got to be entertained. They've always got to be distracted. They've always got to have their attention somewhere. We're going to talk, and this will be a sort of meditative style discussion, but we'll talk about how you can embrace boredom and how you can get the best out of it. So those are just a few mindset tips and techniques that I think are really important for when it comes to writing a first grade essay. We'll talk more about mindset and go a bit deeper. But hey, in the next module, let's get a bit practical. Let's talk about research and let's talk about crafting our thesis statement. Exciting stuff. See you there. And before we move on to the next module, do me a huge favor and put down in the comments, tell me what is one thing you would like to explore in your subject, or just generally, what's one thing that you would love to write an essay about? If you had to have a real legacy piece, something that has your name on it, your stamp, your branding, and people will see it and read it, what would it be about and why? I would implore you to be an active student. Actually put it down. It only takes a minute, and the process of writing it down and engaging with the course will cement some of the ideas. And this will be really important as a habit when we go forward in the course, when I assign you some actual homework. So let me know. What do you want to write about? What do you want to find out? And then see you in the next one.